So in session 13, my characters took a job given to them by Balfour and went into the jeweler's sanctum. It is an old estate that used to be owned by a jeweler magician named Draxus. And Draxus's grandson inherited the estate and has reported strange things happening from the cellar, the basement below the mansion. So he somewhat hired the party. Really, the agreement was they can keep what they find down there. And they have adventured into this space, and this is that continuing session. They get back in this room. They close that bookcase. Their companions dance until they collapse, and it's going to take them another 30 minutes on top of that before they are recovered at all enough to continue. So they dance for 50 minutes, and then they're going to have to rest for 30 more minutes. For every 10 minutes, I need to roll a random happening. Nothing. 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 Okay. 4 more turns are happening. What if I just roll all this together? I shouldn't do that because something might be time dependent. Something happens. About 60 minutes into this, they hear that humming from the tarantella. Nothing on those last 2 turns. So that's all that they're aware of, is that they're inside this library. The rats are not moving around, and they hear the tarantella humming in that room, sort of right on the other side of the door. So none of them want to go through the secret passage. Spending all this time in the room, they absolutely notice that there are these crevices in the wall that seem big enough that like a giant rat could squeeze through. And they surmise that perhaps that's how the rats are getting around the entire sanctum, is squeezing through the walls, these like passageways that they've gnawed out. They also have plenty of time to talk about what next. They know that this room has a lot of poison in it, one of their companions and 3 dead rats. If they head to the south, there were 3 rats in this room. They didn't want to deal with them at the time. They could cross against the white squares, and they've heard that there's some sort of water across the way. So that's what they have to do. Or they head back and out of here. It's about midday. They all eat their rations. They're going to burn out at least 1 more torch. They eat their rations for the day to kind of restore themselves, just take their time. And they head down across the white squares. They move, clinging sort of to the northerly wall here so that they can pass that room that the rats were in without attracting attention. They get down to this passageway here that is about 35 feet from east to west. They can't tell how far to the north. Their torch doesn't get that far. But they can tell like the hallway continues running and opens into this bigger room. They, clinging to that wall and turning around the corner, within 30 feet or so, they see a pool of water. And they remember what that giant rat said, that there were killer bubbles in the water. As they get close to the edge of it, it is a pool of murky water that is occasionally bubbling. There's sort of a 1 foot... The water doesn't start till about 1 foot below the floor level, so they're able to get quite close and see that the water doesn't come over the edge. Beside the pool is a broken lantern and an axe. One of them, at least, will be suspicious enough to sort of peek into the pool. And when they do, they see that there is what looks to be the body of a dead dwarf at the bottom of the pool. They know of the killer bubbles, and I don't think they want to touch or do anything with this water. Fequal at least examines the water, like gets kind of close, holds a torch over it, and can see that there seems to be like an ooze floating on top of the water, like in a couple of different places, sort of like patches of oil, and thinks that that may be the trouble. So they start talking about how to get across. Talira at least has a really good climbing sheer surfaces ability. Could she climb across with a rope, and then the rest of them could use it as sort of like a tightrope where they could then walk across? Or I think with like some iron spikes, like Talira could climb up there with like a tie rope around her waist so that they have a way to retrieve her, and could maybe leave spikes across so that there's some way to climb across this. But in basic D&D, there's not a climb check that I would do for each like subsequent character to cross. Maybe I rule it that they don't need one because they have a rope that they're all tied to and they have spikes. I think that makes the most sense. I believe I've read this rule in a confusing way in two different places, but I believe it's in BX. I'm going to look up the climbing sheer surfaces for thieves. I believe what's confused me in the past is that sometimes it's written as though you need to make the check for every 100 feet that you cross. The DM rolls for success once for every 100 feet climbed. If the roll's a failure, the thief takes 1d6 points of damage per 10 feet fallen. I don't think she's going to take that because she's going to fall in the pool and then deal with those consequences. Okay. That makes sense to me. I thought I had read that in a different way in BX where the first 100 feet are free, but it sounds like every 100 feet Talira needs to do a check, which makes more sense to me, that you have to do some sort of check. So I think they're going to tie a rope. Oh boy, that does not look pleasant. They're going to tie a rope to Talira, and Talira is going to climb up this wall. They've got a rope. She's got a rope around her waist so that if she falls in the pool, they can quickly pull her out, although there might be consequences. And then as she goes, she's going to go straight up at first and hammer in like an iron spike. And then as every next person crosses, they're going to be able to grab these iron spikes with a rope tied around their waist, because my party has something like 300 feet of rope at this point. So with everyone that crosses, they'll be tied together so that they can cross one at a time, but always pulling someone out quickly if something goes wrong. I think that makes the most sense. And to be honest, I think when I ran this as a DM, I think this is very similar to what my characters did. Although I'm pretty sure one of them just jumped straight into the pool. Okay, so Talira as a climb sheer or climb walls at 87%. For this 100 feet, yeah, I mean, there's no way for me to like sort of metagame this like that 100 feet is straight up. She's going to climb like 10 feet straight up, which won't be a problem. And she starts hammering in a spike and then hammering in a spike while climbing. Is that possible? That seems really, really tough. I mean, that is not like a thief skill to hammer while doing this. Maybe that secret door is the best way. They know there are killer bubbles in there. Faqual has seen them. There's an interesting, it says like an energy immunity to the oozes in here, that they're unharmed by cold or fire. But if we just fired arrows into this pool, would it hurt them? I think it does. I'm gonna play it that way, but I want to look it up in the rules cyclopedia to see if there's any guidance on oozes here. Okay, ooze. See black pudding, gray ooze. Were these specifically gray? Yep. So it's under G for gray. And of course, gray. Wow. One moment. Wow, the monster type is a lowlife. It can be harmed by weapons and lightning. That's really interesting. Okay. Not that my characters would know that. I've got a company of fighters with me. So those fighters, knowing that there's like a foot below the floor that they're standing on, there's a foot from the floor that they're standing on down to the water. So they're firing down at these oozes. That's going to give them a +2 to their hit for sure. I just realized that I'm not rolling the D8 for Talira. She does have a long bow, so she should be firing that. Grebe suggests this. What if we just fire some arrows in here and try to take out these oozes? And Faqual says, I'm not sure that would work, but if somehow they are able to come out and attack us, I could cast Fireball on them with this scroll. It would be a one-time Hail Mary kind of move, although that phrase Hail Mary doesn't translate to them. Faqual says I could try it. It would be a real Hail Catholeia here, and we would hope that it would work. But I don't think it's a bad idea. We've got plenty of arrows. Why don't we try to knock these out? So that's what they do. Talira's going to go first. Talira takes aim at one of these oozes. They have an AC of 8. Faqual has had to point them out, but immediately does 6 points of damage to one of them. Zenith fires in there. Does 5 points of damage to one. Same one? Yeah, sure. So when Talira hit the first one, it seemed to sort of dissipate and grow smaller in the pool, like it kind of broke off and the little remnants of it dropped to the bottom. and Zenith targets that same one, and it all dissipates and kind of falls to the bottom of this pool. Doesn't look active, doesn't look like a thing. Faqual points out the second one, and Ballad fires at that. A 13 will also hit and does 2 points of damage there. They will concentrate their fire, I think, over there. The oozes on their turn move to sort of stay away from this attack, but there's nowhere to go. They blend in. There's a lot of stone for them to blend into. There's a lot of lighting challenges here. But between all of them, pointing them out, lighting them up with torches to see where they are, and then the rest of them pelting them with slings and arrows, I don't think I need to continually roll. They've taken out one of these oozes, and I think they're able to continue. Like as they do this, of course they're going to miss, they're going to hit, but given enough time, they can take out all of these oozes, and that they realize is a better way to do this than risking falling into this pool. Let's say that takes them maybe 20 minutes, and they will then rest at the end of the hour. They go into the next hour. They're going to light up 2 more torches. They rest for 10 minutes, and I'm going to roll some random happenings to see if anything happens while they're firing these arrows. Nope. Nothing happens while they're firing these arrows. I'm going to switch up that random happening dice. They eventually kill these oozes, and then they're going to have to spend some time climbing over, but without this fear of falling in. I don't think they're going to worry about the dead dwarf at the bottom of the pool. They see that there's a backpack down there, and they can possibly see these horrid wounds that look like scalds. So I don't think they want to mess with that. They probably spend another 30 minutes, all of them getting to the other side with this combination of Talira climbing. Just for fun, we can see if she falls in the water. No, but barely. An 84 and an 87 is her climb check. So she makes it across, slips at one point, but they're able to get up there and start putting in these iron spikes and set up a sort of rope system so they can all get across and feel relatively safe with it. They find themselves on this little space on the other side where there's a door. It is about 35 feet wide and 10 feet long, north to south. They rest for a bit. I'll roll another random happening in the dungeon. 3, nothing. And then they open this door and do their same thing of peering around. They see again that there's an east to west passageway, and they can probably at the edge of their torchlight see that there's a door to the north, sort of like 20, 30 feet east of them, and then across the hall to the north. So that's where they're going to head. They do that. They're going to listen at the door. And Blaine is fairly certain that he does not hear anything within there. And if you're wondering why I'm not rolling like in past sessions, I've been rolling so many d6s for the entire party for that listen at doors, I decided, and I'll go into this in a downtime, that for skill checks and things, only the main party should be doing those. The Dungeoneering Company, the sort of fighters that come along, shouldn't be contributing to skill checks except forcing stuck doors, because that's what they're there for. They are the fighters. But when it comes to delicate things, any kind of decision, it's going to be the main party doing those checks or making those decisions. Blaine is fairly certain there's nothing on the other side of this. The other two don't get as good a read on that, but they push open this door and they see, as their torches shine across this room, which is about 60 feet east to west and about 40 feet north to south. So their torch doesn't totally extend, but over to the west, they see a tapestry on the wall with astrological diagrams all across it. They carefully pad their way in here. They see that there's a wooden table in the center carved with these spider-like legs that they saw before on a chair. There are tall colored candles and some kind of flute that's on this table. There's also a glove there. And across from the desk, sort of 15 feet away from the desk to the east, is a lectern, which looks sort of like a gargoyle. It is granite and shaped a bit like a gargoyle. Faqual, of course, walks over to that and sees there's a giant book on it. This weighty tome is bound in checkered patches of white fur and black fur. So it resembles in some way those checkered patterns on the floor. Faqual is instantly wondering if this is a book of like setting magical traps and things like that. I was wondering if it specifies whether the book is open or not, and it does not. Faqual asks Talira to check for traps on the book, and she cannot find any. So Faqual carefully opens this book and reads a little bit to determine that this is a tome that instructs magic users in creating those checkerboard traps like they encountered in the entrance of this dungeon. Faqual's going to drop that in his bag. They continue to look around the room. Blaine will pick up the flute that's made of bone. They kind of observe the tapestries. They will check for hidden doors there. So when they check for hidden doors, room traps and treasure traps, they search a 10 by 10 area. They're going to have to do at least 8 checks. So that's going to be 80 minutes. Nothing. So one of them is pretty confident as they get to the second tapestry, there are no secret doors around here. Like they're not finding them, but with that one, they realize like, no, I don't think there's anything here. Third tapestry, fourth tapestry, same thing, just real confidence. These are just solid walls back here. Without even that one there, as they approach the eastern wall, they find one of those passageways that the rats have gnawed out that seems to run between rooms. So after an hour or so, they've made it around the room enough to know there isn't anything here, and they will rest again. And I'm going to roll 7 more of those strange happenings. I'm just going to roll them all at once right now, or roll as many as I can. That was 3. They found nothing. Here come the next 4. Nothing. So no random happenings. This is interesting. The last time I ran this dungeon, I did not roll the 1s on my 1 in 6 chances very often. So they, after that hour, decide to leave this study and proceed east down the hallway. They see the continual light of the room with the spider, and they're confident now that that is that room as they walk easterly. So their torch is illuminating the passage that they're in, but they see a continual light on the ceiling in the distance. They come to this other door to the north, and they will listen at it and then check it. So here comes my party. Blaine is yellow. Talira is the D100. None of them feel like that there's anything in there. So they open this door, and again, they're confronted with a room about the same size. Their torchlight only extends about 30 feet out, and they see there are piles of corroded metal. There are like rods and sheets and flakes of metal. Their torchlight does extend to the center of the room, where they can see that there's like a circle of glowing purple salt on the floor. And in the middle of that is a small iron casket that is locked and chained to the floor. Faqual doesn't need to cast Detect Magic to be certain that there's some magic going on here, but he doesn't know what it is. They're definitely interpreting this looks like the supplies of a jeweler. Like this is the metal that he probably used to make rings and other types of jewels. We wonder if there's something magical in that casket that imbues, it makes the magic of the jewelry. But it seems a little obvious that it's in a casket surrounded by a magic circle. So I think they decide to take an easy way out at this point. There doesn't seem to be a threat in this room, and there is a threat down the hall in that tarantella. So they walk out of this room, having understood now the knowledge that the Rat Queen gave them, that the spider is trapped in this room. They're pretty certain they can just stand on the edge and fire ranged weapons at that spider and take it out. In the time that it's taken them to figure this out, they do have one random happening occur. Whoa, okay. The weirdest one. They walk towards this, and they're sort of taking up their positions to fire arrows and sling bullets at this spider that's quietly humming to itself, when one of them notices that this kind of spectral image appears right here around this secret door, and it runs across this room sort of south to north, and it seems to be like swinging a spectral sword and fighting and screaming, and then it falls into this pit in the north. This spectral image does. They hear a sobbing coming from this image and a death scream as she falls into this pit. They don't know what to make of it. Talira kind of gestures for them to hold their fire, because she sees a similar reflection to herself in this spectral image. Like, here's a fellow thief that looks like me, that seems to be having some kind of ghostly fight and then dying, as though this is like the last moments of their life or something. They pause for a minute. They make of this what they can, but Faqual urges them, I think we have the best idea. Let's take out this spider. So Talira picks up her bow and fires in at that spider, hitting it and doing 8 points of damage. I believe that spider, it had 9 points left. Zenith fires her longbow, misses. Balad with a short bow hits for 1 point of damage, taking it down. This spider this has been hit with arrows several times. It has eaten the rest of Moreland, it seems, and is moving a little bit slower, but is unable to do anything as they stand at range, far away from its bite, and shoot it with arrows to take it out. They then walk into this room that is lit on the ceiling with this continual light, and Talira walks immediately to that pit. She does not see the spectral person within it, but sees a skeleton down there, a rusty sword, and a bag that looks like it contains thieves' tools, something like she carries herself. There is a really interesting instruction here that if they put this figure to a proper rest by burying her in a proper tomb, any characters that do so have a dream of spending the night at a tavern with this person when they were alive, who buys them drinks and teaches them a sleight of hand trick, and the dex of those PCs permanently increases by 1. I don't think there's any way that my PCs who have had to walk away from several of their fallen comrades, including one here in Area 9, would think of doing this with this already skeleton PC here or NPC here in this pit. Seeing the rusty sword, knowing that she's not very strong, Talira has no use for the tools and artifacts left with this person. She just kind of nods like this is a thing that has happened, and they inspect this room. They see those silver statues in the corners, and I believe they do understand that to be treasure. So they will, with some effort and a couple of turns, they have no random occurrences while they do this, they remove those statues and put them in their backpacks and bags. Each statue is about 2 feet tall, so they're going to leave with the treasure of these statues. So they have 4 silver statues. Each is worth 250 gold, so that's 1,000 gold. Faqual does remove that silver collar from the Tarantella. He inspects it. He can't cast Detect Magic on it, but he puts it safely in a bag, like this is a thing we'll come back to, maybe give it to Balfour. And in taking all this time to inspect the room, well, I think once they feel safe and they're inspecting, it's going to take till the end of the hour. So another like 40 minutes, and I'll roll those random happenings. 40 minutes of them. Just make this quick. No random happening. It's so strange that this has happened at least twice through this dungeon for me. Spending all that time, do they find a secret door? No, they do not. So they see a door to the east and a door to the west. I don't know that they have any sense about them. They're going to go to the door to the west as they're, mapping their way around and sort of orientating themselves to this dungeon. They open that door to the west. So they do their listen at doors. Oh, and Talira does not hear anything, but she is confident that if there were something there, she would have heard it. So they take up their positions and they open up that door. And what they find is what looks like the workshop of Draxus. The ceiling here also glows with continual light. There are murals depicting some sort of like genie-like creature forging metals. And there's a heap of coal beside a small forge. Carefully going into this room, realizing that it is about 20 feet east to west and maybe 60 feet north to south. It takes them a bit of time to inspect it all, but they find jeweler's tools like tongs, pliers, and files arranged on wall racks. There's an oak workbench, and on top of that is a crystal crucible. There are also 2 rings with precious stones in them, 10 small ingots, 3... Oh, these are the rings, right? 2 rings with precious stones, 10 small ingots. Oh, of the 10 small ingots, 3 are gold, 5 are silver, and 2 are platinum. So quite a haul within here that we're able to recover. But the size of this room does take us about another hour or more, just to keep it even, of sort of going through everything carefully. So within that hour, I will roll random happenings. That would be 6d6. We have 1 random happening. As we are in there, 2 giant centipedes crawl from a hole in the wall. They are neutral. They seem to just be on their normal crawl. We've dealt with them before and do not like this. Because they are neutral, do I get a surprise attack on them? Must I roll initiative? I suppose initiative should sometimes take that form of like as soon as you draw weapons and show aggression, will the other creature return that aggression? So that's what I'm going to do. They get to act first. They have 2 and 4 hit points each. They get to act first. Do they have a lot of movement? They have plenty of movement. Okay, so they see us sort of drawing our weapons and becoming aggressive. My fighters take up their defensive positions, so one of them moves at Grebe and misses terribly as it tries to bite. The other bites at Ballad. 15 probably will hit. Ballad's AC is a 6, yeah, so that does hit, doing just poison. There's no damage. Okay, so Ballad must make a save against poison, which is 16 for a fighter. Rolls exactly a 16, does save. Feels himself sort of like this sickening puncture as this bite hits him, but doesn't deliver the poison and is able to shake it off. So then we go to Lyra Longbow. 14 and 3 points of damage, takes out one of the centipedes. Zenith Longbow at the other one misses. Ballad Shortbow at the other. Cracked die. 15 takes that other one out. Within a couple of seconds of just firing these arrows really quickly, they take out these 2 centipedes and continue putting this treasure haul into their bags. The crystal crucible is a small crystal cup. It is wondrously faceted and engraved with magical sigils. Faqual doesn't know what to do with that and must return it to Balfour for further inspection. Wow, those 2 of those rings are extremely valuable. We feel pretty good about that haul and about our dealing with the giant centipedes. We have so far defeated 6 giant centipedes, 6 rats, 4 oozes. So we head out of that room and we head to, I guess we also noticed this southern door. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but there's a door to the south. Perhaps we just weren't considering it. We're just going to head clockwise around this room. We head to the southern door. We listen at it. Don't think we hear any noises, and open it up. The ceiling glows with continual light. Murals on the walls depict Zorns, although we don't know what that is, unearthing crystals, so some sort of creature unearthing these crystals. And there are machines for grinding, cutting, and polishing stone. I don't know that maybe we're putting it together that's what it does. There's a workbench in the center that is made of granite that seems to have several gems and some sort of spinner on top of it. I think Talira just has this greedy look in her eyes. Oh, more gems. And she starts walking over there. I'm rolling for surprise. She is not surprised as she notices there are 7 giant centipedes that all scuttle out from beneath that workbench. Okay, I'm going to roll for initiative, and this is to see if we run or not, basically. We get the initiative. We know that these are fairly weak. We've defeated several before. There are 6 of us. That means one of them has a good chance of attacking one of us. They scuttle out from beneath that workbench. Okay, let's do some research. What are the limitations around Faqual using this scroll? Only magic users, elves, and 10th level or higher thieves can use magical scrolls. Okay, I knew that. Sorry, I thought I was saying they all had to be 10th level. 10th level thieves. So a magic user can use a scroll. I don't have a read magic spell to determine what's on the scroll, so I guess Faqual doesn't actually know that it's fireball. Oh, and he must use read magic in order to determine what's on a scroll. Got it. You can't read it aloud unless you want to cast it. Faqual doesn't know what it is, and he has been trained enough that I was going to have Faqual dramatically pull this scroll out and read it in order to fireball all of these centipedes at once, but hesitates, puts his hand in his pocket, touches that scroll, and then thinks, I don't know what this does. So do we run or not on our initiative? I think what we do, just to rig this in my favor as combat is a fail state, is Talira says retreat to the door. We back up. Talira, Zenith, and Balad are going to fire arrows in here at these centipedes, and at the end of each of their turns, they're going to close that door. I don't know that really, metagames it enough in my favor, but that's what we're going to do. So they back up, and Talira fires at one of these centipedes. Natural 20 takes out one of the centipedes. Zenith fires at one of the centipedes. 10 plus its 9 hits, takes out a second centipede. So there's now 5 centipedes. Balad, 11, that's going to hit because the centipedes, I believe, have a 9. Hits, takes out the third centipede. So there are now 4 centipedes remaining in here. And we slam the door closed. I'm going to roll for morale. On the centipede's turn, 5. They have a 7 morale. So they are still approaching. I guess they're going to approach that door. We open it again, so they won't be able to attack us on their turn because we have that door closed. And if I win initiative here, I'll be able to repeat that. But if they win initiative, they can attack. They do win initiative. So we open the door. The centipedes are right there. And the first one bites at Grebe. A 2. Chomps misses. The second one bites at Balad. 20 does hit Balad, and this is simply a save versus poison. Balad has that 16 save versus poison, 3. Balad is instantly paralyzed and becomes sick. Sorry, not paralyzed, but becomes horribly sick. Just this poison gets into Balad. I believe he's the one that fought it off the last time, but is immediately sick and collapses to the ground. No physical activity is possible except half speed movement, and he will be sick for 10 days. So he's basically out of it. He's on the ground, shivering, cold, can't move. The rest of us don't know what to do. That was 2 of the centipedes. There are 2 left. One bites at Zenith, or Grebe, whichever one was left in the doorway, and misses. That's all that they can get to because Blaine, Talira, and Faqual are sort of behind the wall of fighters. So it is now our initiative, and Talira fires another longbow in there. Does not hit with a 7. Zenith with a longbow does not hit. Crud. Balad is down. Grebe is now close enough to swing with her warhammer. Misses. Blaine tries to get in there with his warhammer. Does hit. Takes out one more of these. So there are now 3 giant centipedes left. We close the door. Same thing. We open it. If it is their turn, they will have the initiative. I think what we're going to do this time is Zenith has the most hit points, but Zenith is so necessary for the longbow. Afraid of Faqual opening it. Okay. Blaine is going to open the door. Everyone else backs up about 30 feet so that they have range. Oh, movement happens at the top of the phase, so they don't move. They're all right there. So same thing, initiative. If I win, we will probably move and then attack, and if they win, they will just attack. They win. Okay. There are 3 of them. First one comes at Blaine. A 12 will not hit Blaine. I'm almost certain. No. At Grebe, does not. At Zenith, does not. So they all snap. They don't make it. We all back up 30 feet, and Talira longbow hits for 4 points. Takes out one of them. Zenith longbow misses. Grebe will drop her warhammer, grab her sling, and throw a bullet from that. Misses. Oh no. Blaine, same thing. Also misses. So 2 warhammers were dropped on the ground near this door, and we've retreated. The centipedes took their turn already. Initiative again. I get to go. Talira, longbow. 13 hits, 7 points, takes out one of those. Zenith, longbow, takes out one of those. There's 1 remaining. Grebe with the sling. That is going to hit for 1 point of damage. Let's see how many hit points the centipede had. They have a D4. 1. Okay. Takes out the third one. So these 7 centipedes are now dead. Balad is on the ground. Not in good shape. Sickened for the next 10 days, and we can't do anything with him. But we have 7 more giant centipedes adding to it. So we feel like a quickening here. Blaine, I think, is going to try to give a healing potion to Balad. That makes sense. So I'm going to be down 1 more health potion, but that does not help. Balad is poisoned and will be poisoned. No physical activity except possible... Oh, no physical activity possible except half-speed movement. We feel like things are ticking now. The clock is ticking. We inspect the rest of this room and see that there are 37 uncut gems as well as that silver spinner. So we are truly acting like looters and thieves at this point, and all of this is being quickly added to our bags and inventory. We also find a small key, but we don't really know what to do with that. In room 16, as we inspect around, this had continual light, right? Yep, so we can see everywhere around, and we spend a lot of time inspecting and everything. There is a strange encounter. Oh my god, 2 more giant centipedes, 2d4. So just as we are packing up, 6 more centipedes crawl out of this hole in the wall here. They are 70 feet away from us is impossible, but we notice them as they are at the edge of the wall there. They can't make it across, so I think there's safety in just hitting them with a couple of arrows as we continue to clean up. Nope, 1 arrow misses, 2nd arrow misses, so we just fire a couple of arrows over there really quickly, and then my party exits and closes the door. We know we're in this room, and we know there is a secret door around here. We're going to search for how to release that secret door from this side. We don't find it. Okay. So we go back. We're feeling this haste because we're having to move Ballad at half movement. So we're just sort of limping across. He's very sick. We don't know how to get him across the pool except through the water. We're going to go through this door and just see if there's an exit there. So we go to 17. We listen at that door. Nothing. We don't hear anything, or we don't think we hear anything. Usual routine. We keep Ballad safe and out of the way. We open it up. We see the ceiling glows with continual light. Murals on these walls depict jewels being infused with lunar and solar emanations. There is a strange circle inlaid in the floor. You can see it on the map here. They've just drawn it. And there are 2 statues, one in the southeastern corner and one in the northwestern corner, that depict muscular men armed with great swords. There's also a table and what looks like a book on top of that table. As soon as we enter, and we're not all spilling in at once, but as soon as we open the door and someone steps in, this voice booms out from the statues and says, "Show us the seal of approval." Faqual, I think, knows what to do and pulls out that medallion with the D on it. And this is, in fact, the seal of approval. And the voice is quiet. Faqual walks in, followed by Grebe and Blaine, because they are the heavy hitters, and picks up this tome that's on the... I guess he will do the same thing. He'll call Talira over and ask her to inspect for traps. Wow. She makes it. Talira is very confident that there are no traps on this book. So he picks up this book. It is a slim volume bound in scintillating... He doesn't know, but Djinni skin. He also finds a ruby ring and a paper envelope labeled "For my grandson Jessam." Faqual kind of feels in this envelope, and it feels like there's a ring in there. Faqual, as a chaotic person, does he open this? I don't think so. They know he might have done. It's like he's holding it and considering it, and Grebe's like, "If that's all there is, let's get out of here." And they go back out. They will... I'm not sure I'm sure there are prescribed limitations on how many times I can search for a secret door, but we are going to do it one more time to see if we can figure out how to open that secret door. And we just fail at it. So we cannot figure out how to open the secret door that we had once passed through. And the answer is there is a button on that plinth where the statue is, but we just don't find it. So we start booking it as well as we can with Ballad. We wonder about this room. Balfour would be very interested in this, but I think the same rules apply. Faqual puts his hand on that door, wants to open it, and Grebe says, "We don't have time. We got to get this kid back to the city. We got to get safe. I don't want to lose another person." We head to the end of the hall, and now we're faced with the pool. What is the creative way to get Ballad across this pool? He has half movement. Nothing else seems to be restricted. So I think what they're going to do is, instead of going one by one across the ropes and iron spikes in the wall, Zenith and Grebe will get on either side of Ballad, and they will all 3 go together to try to keep Ballad up. Of course, I know that the danger in the pool is gone. They don't know that, so they are extremely cautious, and they take a lot of time. Here's another half hour passing, no random happenings. They get here, they move around here, just 10 minutes passing, no random happenings. They get to the checkerboards. They have to carefully go white, black, black, with Balad. And they work their way around after another, let's say, half hour. There is one random happening. 4. They hear the giant rats moving around, but nothing appears. And they make it to that door and they pound on it to let Jessam know that they need to be let out. So that was the entire hour here, just in all of that movement. If they entered here around 10 a.m., it's now around 5 p.m. as they are making their way out. They have to wait there and pound repeatedly for Jessam, and they become quite concerned about that. Nothing random happens, but Jessam does eventually answer. Faqual, during those 20 minutes, is sort of rubbing that envelope, wondering what it is. And I guess with the consultation of Blaine and Grebe, they say, this is, it's taken us entirely too much time to get through here. Let's report to Jessam what we found, and perhaps we return with more numbers. Jessam eventually appears and opens that door. Faqual says, I found this in an inner room, and shows Jessam that envelope that says, for my grandson. They then make their way back to Longfelt. This takes quite some time because of Balad's condition. So I think I'm going to roll random encounters straight from the book, rather than rolling them from, the book being the rule cyclopedia, rather than rolling them from Gunderholfen, because they are on the sort of south side of the city. They're not in the Ganfall Swamp. So yeah, I think that's just the best way to do it. It is 5 p.m., so it is late in the day. There's a D12 roll for wandering monsters for the nighttime hours. They're in grassland, so there's a 1 in 12 chance. There's nothing. So as they take a couple of hours to make their way back to the city, only taking that much time, this is very close to the city, but it takes that much time because Balad is so poisoned. They make it back to the city, check them through the gates. Blaine will make sure that Balad is taken to some house where he can get some treatment. And it's nighttime now, so they don't have a chance to do anything. But in the morning, they will visit Balfour and find out what those magic items are. And they will begin visiting their jewelers and other resources they've located in the city to start cashing this stuff out. But I think finally, with this very heavily treasure-infused adventure from Old School Essentials, they will level up. Hopefully, let's see. But yeah, that is the Jeweler's Sanctum, and I have run it before. I think it's a great intro dungeon for old school play, and it certainly presents more of what I expect in a old school Renaissance game, which is not just reviving and showing how play was in the 80s, but is like taking it another level, which is making it more about adventure and discovery and exploration than simple or simply combat. Not that the combat is simple, but Gunderholfen, as I've mentioned, is a very combat-heavy place. It tends to lean towards that. I like in this adventure, like in many Old School Essential adventures, it indicates whether the monster attacks you right away or doesn't, and you roll a reaction, and there's always sort of a way around. Not always. There's often a way around those encounters. I do think this is loaded with treasure that is possibly more valuable than the danger that is presented. But certainly I've lost Rye. I've lost another party member, and my ability to recruit party members is going to diminish. I think that's something I need to take into the future recruiting sessions, and we will see what happens in session 14 and if Virago returns.